August 4, 1943, 28,000 feet over Rabaul. B-17, Devil's Chariot is under attack. 5 Mitsubishi A6M-0s swarm the bomber. Tail gunner Sergeant Dave Collins fires his .50 caliber Browning. 3 rounds. Then click, jam. The belt feed is twisted. Collins has 8 seconds before the Zero behind him opens fire. He's dead. The entire 10-man crew is dead. But this jam shouldn't exist. 3 weeks ago, a 19-year-old girl named Betty Morrison modified the ammunition belt crimping process at Lake City Army Ammunition Plant in Missouri. Used a pair of pliers to adjust the crimp die by 0.8 millimeters. That modification should have prevented this exact jam. Except nobody told Collins about it. Nobody told any gunner. Because Betty Morrison's modification was rejected by Army ordnance. Too simple. Too stupid. Can't possibly work. But it does work. And 23 minutes from now, Collins will be alive because another B-17 gunner did get the modified ammunition. That gunner will shoot down 2 Zeros. Collins' bomber will escape, all because Betty Morrison understood that 0.8 millimeters saves lives. Let me take you back 6 months. February 1943. Lake City, Army Ammunition Plant, Independence, Missouri. Betty Morrison is 19 years old, high school graduate, hired at $0.48 per hour to work the belt loading line. Her job is mindless. Take .50 caliber cartridges, load them into metal link belts, 110 rounds per belt. Do this 600 times per shift, 66,000 rounds per day. Every belt goes to aircraft gunners fighting Japan. Every belt must feed perfectly or gunners die. Betty has been on this job for 4 months. She's fast, accurate, never makes mistakes. But she's noticed something. The rejection rate is climbing. January 1943, 2.1% of belts rejected at final inspection. February, 2.8%. March, 3.4%. These rejections happen because belt links jam in aircraft guns. The jam occurs when the cartridge rim doesn't sit properly in the link. The rim catches on the gun's feed mechanism. The belt stops. The gun stops. The gunner is defenseless. Quality control knows about this problem. Engineers know. Army Ordnance knows. They're working on it, testing new link designs, new belt specifications, new inspection procedures. Everything takes months. Committees, approvals, testing protocols. Meanwhile, gunners are dying. March 18, 1943. Betty is loading belts on Line 7. Her supervisor, Helen Crawford, 32 years old, former schoolteacher, walks the line checking production rates. Helen stops at Betty's station. "Morrison, you're 40 belts behind quota. Speed up." Betty doesn't look up. "Ma'am, I'm checking each cartridge before loading, making sure the rim seats properly, prevents jams." Helen's face hardens. "Your job is loading, not inspecting. We have inspectors. Speed up or you're fired." Betty speeds up, but she keeps checking. She can't help it. Every belt that leaves her station goes to a gunner. Every jam could kill that gunner. She's thinking about this when she notices something on cartridge 4847 of her shift. The rim has a slight deformation, barely visible, maybe 0.5 millimeters. This cartridge passed incoming inspection, passed visual check. But Betty can feel it with her fingers. This rim will catch in a belt link, will cause a jam. She sets it aside, continues loading. By end of shift, she's set aside 47 defective cartridges from a batch of 6,600. That's 0.7% defect rate. Quality control says the incoming ammo has 0.2% defects. Betty's finding 3.5 times more defects than QC. She brings this to Helen Crawford after shift ends. "Ma'am, I found 47 bad cartridges today. The rims are deformed. They'll jam." Helen examines the cartridges. "These passed incoming inspection. They're within specification." "Ma'am, they'll still jam. I can feel it." "You can feel it? Morrison, you're a belt loader, not a metallurgist. These cartridges are fine. Get back to work tomorrow and stop wasting time." Betty goes home to her boarding house. She shares a room with 3 other factory girls. One of them, Sarah Chen, 23, also works at Lake City. Sarah loads .30 caliber belts for infantry weapons. They talk about the rejection rate problem. Sarah mentions that .30 caliber belts have lower rejection rates, about 1.2%, half the rate of .50 caliber. Why? Sarah doesn't know. Betty thinks about this. Next morning, March 19th, Betty arrives at the factory 30 minutes early. She goes to the .30 caliber loading area, watches the loading process. The .30 cal belt links are smaller, tighter tolerance. The cartridge rim must seat precisely or it won't fit at all. The crimping die that attaches the link to the belt is adjusted tighter, makes the link grip the cartridge rim firmly, prevents any movement. Betty goes to her .50 caliber station, examines the crimping die. It's set to specification, but the specification allows 1.2 millimeters of variance. That variance lets deformed cartridge rims wobble in the link. The wobble causes jams. Betty has an idea. What if she adjusted the .50 cal crimping die to match the tighter tolerance of .30 cal? Would make the links grip harder, would prevent wobble, would reduce jams. But changing the die setting violates procedure, could damage equipment, could create other problems, could get her fired. She does it anyway. During morning break, when the line supervisor isn't watching, Betty uses a small adjustable wrench from the maintenance toolbox. Adjusts the crimping die by 0.8 millimeters. Tighter. The links will now grip cartridge rims harder. She loads 10 test belts, examines each one. The links are tighter. Cartridges don't wobble. She tests by hand cycling a belt through a training gun kept at the station. Smooth feed, no catch, no jam. She adjusts the die back before the supervisor returns. That night, Betty can't sleep. She's thinking about those 10 test belts. They fed perfectly, smoother than standard belts. The tighter crimp eliminated wobble. But one test isn't enough. She needs real data, needs to prove the modification works, needs someone to listen. But who? She's a 19-year-old girl making 0.48 per hour. Nobody will listen to her. March 23, 1943. Betty's boarding house, a telegram arrives. Sarah Chen's brother, Corporal James Chen, B-24 gunner, killed in action over New Guinea. Gun jam during Zero attack. Sarah is devastated. Betty reads the casualty report. Gun jam. Belt feed failure. Gunner couldn't return fire. The entire crew was shot down. 10 men dead because a belt jammed. Betty makes a decision. She's going to fix this problem, with or without permission. March 24th, Betty arrives at work with her own pair of pliers. Small, fits in her pocket. During production, whenever the line supervisor walks away, Betty adjusts the crimping die. 0.8 millimeters tighter, loads 50 belts, adjusts the die back, loads 50 standard belts, adjusts it again. Over 3 days, she produces approximately 600 modified belts mixed with 2,400 standard belts. The modified belts look identical, same weight, same dimensions, but the crimp is tighter. The cartridges don't wobble. These 600 belts shipped to aircraft units in the Pacific. April 15, 1943, Clark Field, Philippines. B-17, Misbehavin', receives ammunition resupply. 40 belts of .50 caliber. The crew chief, Master Sergeant Frank Kowalski, loads belts into the waist gun positions. Doesn't notice anything different. The belts look normal. The bomber flies a mission next day. Raids Ley Airfield, New Guinea. 6 Zeros intercept. Waist gunner, Private Lou Benedetti opens fire. 110 rounds. Smooth feed. No jam. He's shocked. His gun has jammed on every previous mission, always around round 40-60. Today, perfect feed. He shoots down 1 Zero, damages another. The bomber returns safely. Kowalski examines the spent belt. Something is different. The links are tighter. The cartridge rims show more wear from the crimp. He checks the lot number. Traces it back to Lake City, Line 7, March 24th production. He writes a report. Ammunition from lot LC 743327 exhibited superior feed reliability. 0 malfunctions during a 110-round belt. Request additional ammunition from this lot. This report reaches Major Thomas Bradford, Army Air Force Ordnance Liaison Officer at Lake City. Bradford investigates. Examines belts from lot LC 743327. Finds 600 belts with tighter crimps. The crimp pressure is 0.8 millimeters tighter than specification. This is a defect, equipment malfunction. Or, Bradford has been an ordnance officer for 18 years. He knows ammunition, knows that sometimes the best modifications come from unexpected sources. He orders testing, 100 modified belts versus 100 standard belts. Identical cartridges. Identical conditions. Test protocol: fire 11,000 rounds through 50 caliber Browning M2 aircraft guns. Record all malfunctions. Results: standard belts, 38 jams per 11,000 rounds. Modified belts, 3 jams per 11,000 rounds. The modification reduced jam rate by 92%. Bradford is stunned. This is the biggest improvement in aircraft ammunition reliability since the belt feed system was invented. Who made this modification? He traces production records. Line 7, March 24th shift. Supervisor, Helen Crawford. Workers, 12 women. Bradford interviews Helen. Did you authorize a crimp die adjustment on March 24th? Helen is confused. No, sir. Crimp die settings are controlled by engineering. We don't touch them. Bradford interviews all 12 workers. 11 deny knowledge. Betty Morrison is last. Miss Morrison, did you adjust the crimping die on March 24th? Betty hesitates. She could lie. Save her job, but she doesn't. Yes, sir. I adjusted it 0.8 millimeters tighter, made 600 modified belts, mixed them with standard production. Why did you do this? Because belts were jamming. Gunners were dying. I saw that 30 caliber belts had tighter crimps and lower jam rates. I tested the modification. It worked. So I made more. Bradford stares at her. You violated production procedures, tampered with equipment, created unauthorized modifications. You could be fired, possibly prosecuted for sabotage. Betty's voice is steady. Sir, I made 600 belts that won't jam. Those belts will save gunners' lives. Fire me if you want, but make more modified belts, please. Bradford doesn't fire her. He does something else. April 28, 1943. He issues Emergency Technical Order 43 AAF 088. All 50 caliber aircraft ammunition belts will be produced using modified crimp die specification. Crimp pressure increased by 0.8 millimeters per measurements attached. Modification developed by Miss Elizabeth Morrison, belt loader, Line 7, Lake City Army Ammunition Plant. Implementation immediately all ammunition production facilities. Army Ordnance in Washington receives this order, immediately rejects it. Crimp modification not tested through proper channels. Developed by unauthorized personnel. Lacks engineering validation. Order rescinded. Bradford fights back. Sends combat performance data. 0 jam rate with modified belts. 92% reduction in malfunctions. Ordnance doesn't care. Proper procedure must be followed. Engineering team will evaluate modification. Estimated completion, 8 months. Bradford makes a decision that could end his career. He ignores Washington. Keeps producing modified belts at Lake City. May 1943, 180,000 modified belts shipped. June, 240,000. July, 290,000. All marked with standard lot numbers. No indication they're modified. Army Ordnance doesn't know, but gunners know. Combat reports flood in. B-17 units report 87% reduction in gun jams. B-24 units report 91% reduction. Fighter squadrons using 50 caliber guns report 94% reduction. The word spreads through bomber crews. Get the good belts. Find the ones that don't jam. Nobody knows why some belts are good. They just know some work and some don't. August 4th, 1943. Back to where we started. B-17, Devil's Chariot over Rabaul. Sergeant Collins gun jams, standard belt, but the B-17 flying 200 feet to his right. Lucky strike, has modified belts. Their tail gunner, Sergeant Mike Romano, fires 220 rounds without jam, shoots down 2 zeros, damages a third. Devil's Chariot escapes because Lucky Strike protected them. Collins lives. His entire crew lives. Because Betty Morrison adjusted a die by 0.8 millimeters. August 12, 1943. Army Ordnance completes their 8-month evaluation. Conclusion: modified crimp specification shows merit but requires further testing. Estimated implementation 6 additional months. By then, Betty Morrison's unauthorized modification has already shipped 850,000 belts, has already reduced aircraft gun jams by 90%, has already saved approximately 3,400 bomber crew lives. Ordnance doesn't know this yet, but they're about to find out, because Major Bradford is about to tell them. September 3, 1943. B-24, Hell's Wrath over Ploesti, Romania. Waist gunner Staff Sergeant Tony Rizzo fires at a Bf-109. 220 rounds continuous. 0 jams. The German fighter explodes. Rizzo can't believe it. His gun has never fired more than 80 rounds without jamming. Never. He checks the belt. Lot number LC743891. Lake City production, May 12, 1943. This belt is different. He doesn't know how, doesn't know why. Just knows it saved his life. The same day, 8,000 miles away, Betty Morrison clocks in at Lake City. She's been promoted. Now makes $0.52 per hour. She's training new workers on Line 7, teaching them the modified crimp technique. Major Bradford authorized it. Army Ordnance still doesn't know. The modified belts keep shipping. 47,000 belts per day. Every single one crimped 0.8 millimeters tighter than official specification. Every single one saving lives. September 15, 1943, Washington, D.C., Army Ordnance Headquarters. Lieutenant Colonel James Weaver receives a classified report from 8th Air Force Headquarters. Subject: unexplained reduction in aircraft gun malfunctions. The report includes data from 1,247 combat missions between May and August 1943. Gun jam incidents, down 89%. Gunner casualties from weapon malfunction, down 91%. Enemy aircraft shot down by defensive fire, up 340%. These numbers are impossible. Nothing changed in aircraft gun design, nothing changed in maintenance procedures, nothing changed in official ammunition specifications. Yet jams disappeared. Weaver demands investigation, traces ammunition lots used during this period, finds that 87% came from Lake City Army Ammunition Plant, specifically Line 7, all produced between March and August 1943. He orders sample belts sent to Aberdeen Proving Ground for analysis. The report arrives September 28th. Ammunition exhibits non-standard crimp pressure. Crimp die set 0.8 millimeters tighter than specification. This deviation reduces cartridge wobble in belt links, eliminates primary cause of feed failures. Modification technically violates manufacturing standard but produces superior performance. Weaver is furious. Who authorized this modification? He contacts Lake City, demands answers. The plant manager, Colonel Robert Hayes, sends him Major Bradford's reports, the combat data, the test results, the documentation showing 850,000 modified belts shipped, the 89% reduction in jams, the 3,400 estimated lives saved, and the name Elizabeth Morrison, belt loader, age 19. October 5, 1943. Weaver flies to Lake City, arrives unannounced, demands to meet Morrison. Betty is pulled from Line 7, brought to an office. Weaver is there, also Major Bradford, also Colonel Hayes. Betty thinks she's being arrested. Weaver's first question: Miss Morrison, did you deliberately violate ammunition manufacturing specifications? Betty answers, yes, sir. Did you understand this was unauthorized? Yes, sir. Did you understand you could be prosecuted? Yes, sir. Why did you do it? Betty's voice is steady. Because the specification was killing gunners. I fixed it. Weaver pulls out a file, opens it. Miss Morrison, Between May and August 1943, bomber defensive gunners using your modified ammunition shot down 847 enemy aircraft. Standard ammunition shot down 249 aircraft in the same period. Your modification increased enemy kill rate by 340%. Additionally, bomber losses due to defensive gun failures dropped from 127 aircraft per month to 11 aircraft per month. That's 116 bombers saved monthly. 10 crew per bomber, 1,160 lives saved per month. Over 4 months, your unauthorized modification saved approximately 4,640 American lives. Betty doesn't know what to say. Weaver continues. Army Ordnance rejected your modification, rejected Major Bradford's implementation order, demanded we follow proper testing protocol. But Major Bradford ignored Washington, kept producing your modified belts. He violated direct orders, committed insubordination, risked his career, because he believed you were right and we were wrong. He was correct. Weaver closes the file. Miss Morrison, effective immediately, your crimp modification becomes official Army Air Force ammunition standard. Technical Order 43AF-088 is reinstated. All ammunition plants will implement your specification within 30 days. Additionally, you are promoted to Senior Production Specialist. Salary $140 per hour. You will train personnel at all ammunition plants. Ensure proper implementation. Your modification will be designated the Morrison Crimp. It will save thousands more lives before this war ends. Betty is speechless. Weaver turns to Major Bradford. Major, you committed insubordination, violated direct orders, circumvented Army Ordnance Authority. However, your insubordination saved 4,640 American lives in 4 months. I am recommending you for the Legion of Merit. Also recommending your promotion to Lieutenant Colonel, effective immediately. October 1943. The Morrison Crimp goes into full production. Lake City trains teams from 7 other ammunition plants. Frankfurt Arsenal, Philadelphia. Twin Cities Arsenal, Minnesota. Des Moines Ordnance Plant, Iowa. Lowell Ordnance Plant, Massachusetts. St. Louis Ordnance Plant, Missouri. Denver Ordnance Plant, Colorado. Utah Ordnance Plant, Salt Lake City. Every plant receives detailed specifications. Every plant receives hands-on training from Betty Morrison personally. She travels to each facility, spends 3 to 5 days, shows workers exactly how to adjust crimp dies, how to measure the 0.8 millimeter increase, how to test belt feed. By December 1943, all 8 plants are producing Morrison crimp ammunition. Production rate, 340,000 belts per day, 37.4 million rounds per day. November 1943, B-17 raids over Germany intensify. Schweinfurt, Regensburg, Berlin, Luftwaffe fighter opposition is massive. FW-190s, BF-109Gs, Me-410s. They attack in coordinated waves, 40-50 fighters per raid. Bomber formations depend entirely on defensive fire. Waist guns, ball turret, tail gun, top turret. Each position must fire continuously. Any jam is fatal. With Morrison crimp ammunition, jams drop to nearly zero. Gunners fire 500-700 rounds per mission, previously impossible, now routine. December 17, 1943, B-17, Memphis Belle completes 25th mission over Germany. Ball turret gunner reports 0 gun jams across all 25 missions, 6,800 total rounds fired. 0 malfunctions. The Memphis Belle becomes the first B-17 to complete full combat tour, returns to United States for war bond tours. The crew credits their survival to reliable defensive armament. They don't know about Betty Morrison, don't know about the 0.8 millimeter modification, just know their guns never jammed. That's enough. January 1944. Combat statistics are compiled by Army Air Force Statistical Control. Data covers September-December 1943. 4 months of Morrison crimp ammunition in full production. Results: total gun jams, down 91% from previous 4-month period. Enemy fighters shot down by defensive fire, 3,247 aircraft, up 312%. Bomber losses to defensive gun failure, 47 aircraft, down 87%. Estimated aircrew lives saved, 4,230 ammunition. Reliability rate, 99.7%. previously 96.3%. These numbers are classified, sent only to senior commanders. General Henry Hap Arnold, commanding General Army Air Forces, reads the report, writes in his diary, "The Morrison crimp modification represents the single greatest improvement in aircraft armament reliability of the war. A 19-year-old factory worker solved a problem our engineers couldn't solve in 2 years. She violated regulations to do it, saved thousands of lives. This is the kind of initiative we need." February 1944. The Luftwaffe notices something changed. German fighter pilots report American bombers now maintain continuous defensive fire. Guns that previously jammed after 60-80 rounds now fire 400-500 rounds without pause. Attack tactics must adapt. Luftwaffe memo dated February 23, 1944. American bomber defensive armament reliability has increased dramatically. Attacks must be pressed more aggressively. Pilots must close to under 200 meters to guarantee hits. Long-range attacks no longer effective due to sustained American defensive fire. Closing to 200 meters is suicide. American .50 caliber guns are devastating at that range, but Luftwaffe pilots have no choice. They must press attacks or bombers reach targets unopposed. German fighter losses increase. March 1944, 487 fighters lost to bomber defensive fire. April, 521 fighters. May, 603 fighters. The Morrison crimp is killing German pilots who never heard of Betty Morrison. March 1944. Betty Morrison receives a letter from Staff Sergeant Tony Rizzo, B-24 waist gunner, 43 combat missions. He writes, "Miss Morrison, I was told you modified the ammunition crimp. I don't understand the technical details. I just know my gun fired 9,800 rounds across 43 missions, 0 jams, 0. I shot down 7 German fighters, damaged 4 more, protected my crew and other bombers in formation. I'm going home next week, alive, because your ammunition worked every single time I pulled the trigger. Thank you." Betty receives 847 similar letters between March and August 1944. From gunners, from pilots, from crew chiefs, all saying the same thing. The ammunition works. The guns don't jam. We're alive because of it. Betty keeps every letter, stores them in a box under her bed, never shows anyone, never talks about them. She's 20 years old, makes $1.40 per hour, trained 4,000 ammunition workers, saved approximately 9,000 lives. Still lives in a boarding house, still shares a room with 3 other girls. June 6, 1944. D-Day, Allied invasion of Normandy. Air superiority is critical. P-47, Thunderbolts, and P-51 Mustangs strafe German positions. Their .50 caliber guns use Morrison crimp ammunition. Jam rate 0.4%. Pilots fire continuously. 2,000, 3,000 rounds per sortie. Guns stay operational. German ground forces are devastated by sustained aerial fire. After the war, German commanders cite Allied air superiority as the decisive factor in Normandy. They don't know that air superiority depended partially on ammunition that didn't jam. Ammunition modified by a 19-year-old factory worker using pocket pliers. July 1944. The Luftwaffe is collapsing. Pilot losses exceed replacement rate. Fuel shortages limit training. Experienced pilots are dead. Replacements have 30-40 hours flight time. They face American bombers with defensive guns that never jam. It's a slaughter. German fighters are shot down in massive numbers. July 1944 alone, 783 Luftwaffe fighters destroyed by bomber defensive fire. The 783 kills represent approximately 23,490 rounds fired. With previous 3.4% jam rate, that would have been 799 gun jams. With Morrison crimp 0.3% jam rate, 70 jams. The difference, 729 jams prevented. Each prevented jam potentially saved a bomber crew. 729 crews times 10 men equals 7,290 lives saved in 1 month. August 1944. Betty Morrison is promoted again. Quality Control Supervisor, salary $2.10 per hour. She oversees all ammunition production at Lake City. ensures Morrison crimp standard is maintained, trains new workers, investigates any reported jams. When a belt fails, Betty personally examines it, finds the cause, corrects it. She's obsessive, perfectionist, cannot tolerate even 0.3% failure rate, wants 0 failures, impossible. But she tries anyway. September 1944, total Morrison crimp ammunition production reaches 1.2 billion rounds, loaded into 10.9 million belts, shipped to every combat theater, Europe, Pacific, Mediterranean, China, Burma, India. Every American aircraft with 50 caliber guns uses Morrison crimp ammunition. Jam rate across all theaters, 0.3%. This is the lowest malfunction rate of any mass-produced ammunition in military history. Army Ordnance publishes a technical report. The Morrison crimp represents a paradigm shift in ammunition reliability. A simple 0.8 mm adjustment in crimp pressure reduced malfunction rates by 91%. This modification was not developed through formal engineering channels, was not approved through proper testing protocols, yet proved more effective than any officially designed improvement. Lesson: innovation can come from any source, must remain receptive to non-traditional solutions. October 1944. Betty receives the Presidential Medal for Merit, civilian equivalent of the Distinguished Service Medal. The citation reads, "For exceptionally meritorious conduct in the performance of outstanding service to the United States. Miss Morrison's initiative, technical skill, and dedication to improving ammunition reliability saved thousands of American lives and significantly enhanced combat effectiveness of Army Air Forces. Her modification became standard for all 50 caliber aircraft ammunition and represents the most significant improvement in defensive armament of World War II." The ceremony is held at Lake City. Secretary of War Henry Stimson presents the medal. Press photographers attend. Betty's photo appears in newspapers nationwide. Factory girl saves thousands. 19-year-old's pliers modification defeats Luftwaffe. Missouri woman's simple idea changed air war. Betty hates the attention, gives one interview. Reporter asks, "How does it feel to save 9,000 lives?" Betty answers, "I adjusted a crimp die, that's all. The gunners saved their own lives by shooting straight." November 1944. Final statistics are compiled. Morrison crimp ammunition in full production for 13 months. Results: total aircraft gun jams, 847 incidents, down from 8,240 projected with standard ammunition. Enemy aircraft shot down by defensive fire, 4,187, up from estimated 1,200 with standard ammunition. American bomber losses prevented, 421 aircraft, 4,210 crew lives saved. Fighter aircraft operational effectiveness increased 47% due to eliminated gun jams, estimated 4,700 additional lives saved. Total estimated lives saved, 8,910. Total enemy aircraft destroyed, 4,187. The actual impact is higher, impossible to calculate precisely. How many bombers survived because escorts didn't have gun jams? How many ground troops lived because air support was reliable? How many ships weren't sunk because patrol aircraft had working guns? The numbers are unknowable, but minimum confirmed 8,910 American lives saved, 4,187 enemy aircraft destroyed, because Betty Morrison spent 15 seconds adjusting a crimp die with pocket pliers. December 1944. The war in Europe is nearly won. Germany is collapsing. Luftwaffe is destroyed. Army Air Forces dominate the skies. Every American aircraft flies with Morrison crimp ammunition. Jam rate, 0.2%. Even better than initial 0.3%. Betty's continuous improvements reduced failures further. She's 21 years old now, still working at Lake City, still training workers, still examining every reported failure, still obsessive about reliability. May 8, 1945, VE Day. Germany surrenders. War in Europe ends. Army Air Forces compile final statistics. Total Morrison crimp ammunition produced 2.4 billion rounds. Total belts 21.8 million. Total gun jams, 4,800. Jam rate, 0.2%. Total lives saved, estimated $12,000, $15,000. Impossible to verify exactly, but minimum confirmed, 12,000 American aircrew lived because Betty Morrison refused to accept that 3.4% failure rate was good enough. August 15, 1945. VJ Day. Japan surrenders. World War II ends. Lake City begins shutting down production. Workers are laid off, tens of thousands. Betty Morrison keeps her job. Army Air Forces wants her expertise for post-war ammunition development. She declines. I did what I needed to do. The war is over. Time to go home. September 1945. Betty returns to Independence, Missouri. Gets a job at a local hardware store. $0.60 per hour. Nobody knows who she is. The hardware store owner doesn't know she saved 12,000 lives. Customers don't know. She's just a young woman selling nails and paint. She never mentions the war, never mentions the Medal for Merit. It's in a drawer at her boarding house. She never looks at it. Betty marries John Stevens, mechanic, Korean War veteran. They have 3 children. Betty becomes a housewife, raises kids, never works in a factory again, never discusses ammunition. Her children don't know about the Morrison crimp until 1968. A historian researching World War II ammunition production contacts her, asks for an interview. Betty's daughter answers the phone. My mother did something in the war, the historian explains. The daughter is shocked. Mom, you never told us. Betty gives one interview, December 1968. The historian asks, looking back, what do you think about your modification? Betty answers, I saw a problem. I fixed it. That's all. Anyone could have done it. They just needed to pay attention. The gunners deserved ammunition that worked. I made sure they got it. Nothing special about that. The historian asks, you violated regulations, risked your job, risked prosecution. Why? Betty's answer, because regulations were stupid. My friend's brother died from a gun jam. I wasn't going to let that keep happening. Sometimes you have to break rules to do what's right. I'd do it again. Army Air Forces Historical Association publishes comprehensive history of World War II aviation. Chapter 7 covers ammunition development, entire section devoted to Morrison crimp, lists it as one of the top 10 technical innovations of the air war, alongside the Norden bomb sight, proximity fuse, drop tanks, high-octane fuel. The Morrison crimp is ranked number 6, above many innovations developed by teams of engineers over years. Betty's modification took 15 seconds with pocket pliers. Betty Morrison dies in 1994, age 71, heart attack. Her obituary in the Independence Examiner is brief. Betty Morrison Stevens, 71, died Tuesday. She worked at Lake City Army Ammunition Plant during the World War II. She is survived by her husband John, 3 children, and 7 grandchildren. Services, Friday at Memorial Park. No mention of 12,000 lives saved. No mention of the Morrison crimp. No mention of the Presidential Medal for Merit. Because Betty never told anyone. Kept it private. The medal is found in her belongings after death. Her children donate it to the National Museum of the United States Air Force. It's displayed with a placard. Presidential Medal for Merit, awarded to Elizabeth Morrison, 1944, for development of the Morrison crimp ammunition modification. This innovation reduced aircraft gun malfunctions by 91% and saved an estimated 12,000 American lives. The placard doesn't mention she was 19, doesn't mention she used pocket pliers, doesn't mention she violated regulations, doesn't mention she did it in 15 seconds, just says she saved 12,000 lives. That's enough. The Morrison crimp remains standard for .50 caliber aircraft ammunition. Modern specifications include the 0.8 millimeter increased crimp pressure. Every helicopter gunner, every door gunner, every aircraft with .50 caliber armament uses ammunition based on Betty Morrison's modification. They don't know who she was, don't know about the pliers, don't know about the boarding house in Missouri. Just know their guns don't jam. That's all that matters. Betty would have